Hello, everyone. I'm Deb Floros. I am a jewelry designer, a jewelry making educator, and a jewelry fanatic, and I am a cool crafter. I've been primarily showing off projects that are all about repurposing, recycling, upcycling, whatever the term you would like to use, but essentially taking pieces and parts from jewelry that's been cast aside and reloving it, bringing it, breathing new life into it. And tonight is a little bit different, same and different. I'll explain in just a minute. We're going to talk about embellishing beads. So jewelry makers will get this. If you like to make jewelry, you're always thinking about how can I make that my own, or how can I make that into a bead, or how can I make that bead do something different? And so something I enjoy doing is just sitting down and taking a piece, a bead, a piece of something, and embellishing it, and later turning it into a piece of jewelry. I often do not do these things all at once. I don't often take the pieces I've embellished and put them together. Sometimes just the act of sitting down and painting a bead or doing something else to a bead is enough for me to get my creative juices flowing. Those beads might get set aside and later become a piece of jewelry, or maybe sometimes they just kind of get stashed away and really never get made, but it was a fun experience at the time. So I'm going to flip my camera down. So these are some examples. Now, one example is what I showed you the last time I was here. So I made this piece with some slider pieces. So these components here and this component here. And I embellished this component. It is a bead. It's a 2-hole bead. And I put some flat back rhinestones on it. And I wanted it to kind of match up to these other pieces that already had rhinestones in them. So I had a specific purpose for this. So I did make this bead to match to the others. And as soon as that glue was dry, we were ready to go for this piece. Another thing I made also with sliders, I'm a bit crazy about sliders, is this piece. And these are all wood pieces. So these are sliders, and they were kind of a raw wood. And then these little cubed beads are also kind of a raw wood. And so I used some acrylic paint, and I just kind of gave them some interesting dots and stripes, and just had fun sitting down painting these beads. And I created a little macrame slide clasp for this, and this was actually for a challenge, which was to do some repurposing and some upcycling. So that's another thing that you can do. Here's another example. So these beads, this really wasn't much of an upcycle because these beads were new. But just to give you another example of embellishing a bead. So these beads are a glass tri-cut. And I looked desperately to find the rest of them because I have some to show you what they looked like before they were embellished, but I could not find them. But they're essentially a table cut bead. So they have 3 slices on them. So they have like a flat spot on 3 sides. So it was perfect to embellish with rhinestones. So I used some glue and attached some beautiful flat back rhinestones. And then to finish the project, and this was one I actually did, I did the embellishing and then the finishing, the creating of the piece very soon after. I just did some wire wrapped beads and created this long, fun, dangly earring. So there are so many ways that you can embellish beads. And in the vein of repurposing and recycling, I picked up this necklace. I took a picture of it because it's already cut up. And this is a gorgeous necklace full of natural like wood and bone, all kinds of really cool rustic beads. This is a cool necklace. I found this in a lot of necklaces that I bought on Whatnot. And I love this necklace. I was going to actually keep it. And when I tried it on, it was just a little bit like weird. Like it didn't hang right for me. Just my body type, it just didn't lay right. So I loved the beads and I cut up the piece. And just to give you some examples of these beautiful beads, many of them are textured, many of them are colored already, but there were a few beads in there that I had my eye on that I thought could use some embellishing. So pretty necklace, but we cut it up and we're going to do lots of fun things with all the different beads. So that little package is going to get set to the side, but one thing I wanted to do was paint some of them. Now let me show you these. So these are a real heavy wood bead, and they look a little worn out. They're not pristine, so they've been around a while. Maybe had some water damage, or just maybe body oils over time. But they're pretty cool as is. I don't mind this kind of a look, but this is a great kind of bead to do something different with. So lots of things you can do. And this first thing you can do is actually paint. So I grabbed just some really easy, basic acrylic paint, some craft paint, and I use a dotting tool. So I have a whole set of these little dotting tools. They have these round tips, and each one has two different sizes. They come in a set. I believe this was an Amazon purchase. And I just, let me show you just quickly. I mean, this is so easy peasy. All of you crafting folks probably could do this in your sleep. But all I do is just take that little dotting tool, and let me let the camera adjust if it will. There we go. And I just kind of come in with the dotting tool and give it some dots. And then I let this guy dry, and you could add more to it. So you could grab another color and start adding maybe some swirls in there, or some stripes or dots of different colors. I'm a big dots fan. I mean, this whole thing was dots. So I am a dot fan. So what I would do next with this once it's done is I would grab some of Aleene's sealer. So this is the super gloss, but you could use the super gloss or the matte, and just spray this, and it's going to hold all of that, colorful paint, and keep this bead in a good condition that when it does find a home on a piece of jewelry, it will, keep those beautiful dots or stripes or whatever designs that you want to put onto your bead intact. So this is just fun. I mean, just taking a bead and, oh, look, I smashed that one. Lovely. So it's just fun to do. Just get a bead, find some beads that will actually take paint. A glass bead is a little more challenging to paint. But a wood bead, a natural bead, a bone bead, those kinds of beads are usually really easy to paint. Wood beads are my favorite. So that's one way you can play with these beads. Now, another thing I did was I got these in a D-stash of craft supplies. Now, to be perfectly honest, I wasn't exactly sure what they were. They are a kind of crayon, but they come across like chalk. So I think they're probably chalk. And I got two sets of them. This one is a different colorway than the other. And I just started kind of texturing these. So this one, more dots, and it just kind of makes these look a little bit more interesting. So if you like a tribal design or something that's a little more rustic, you can add different textures to it. I took a yellow and kind of put the yellow around the center. I think this is chalk because it so easily came off as I was working with it, but I took these guys outside and I sprayed them down. And now all of that color and the little designs are they're there forever now. This one was kind of fun. This one has, you know what? I just realized this light is not on. Oh, that's going to help tremendously. Okay, so this one I actually used like 3 different colors, and I took one and just kind of created these really cool, just like just swiped the little stick across the bead, and so it just makes this look different. So I mean, not terribly different than the original, but enough so that you get something interesting. So you could do all different kinds of designs, or you could do all the same kind of design and colors, and then spray this down, and you've got a fun bead to put on a piece of jewelry. So I've just got a couple more, and I'll show you quickly what this kind of looked like for me as I was working through it. So I took one of these guys and I just kind of, let me let the camera adjust. There we go. Just kind of came in and rubbed that on. And because this is wood and has some texture, it's picking that up. So it's picking that color up, but it's going to come off on my fingers as I go around. So trying to hold that on the edges of the bead, on the whole side of the bead, and just kind of giving it something. And that's the beauty here. You can make this look any way that you want with paint and chalk and all kinds of things that will. I've never tried alcohol ink on these. That might be interesting. So just giving it a little bit of a fun design and color. And that's really fun and interesting. Now I would take this on and put it on a dowel or on a, this is actually a bead reamer or an awl, and you can use that to help you as you work through it. And you could also use this when you're spraying your acrylic sealer on. So that's super fun. That's a fun way to embellish. You could use a combination of the paint and these. There's all different kinds of things you can do. And then when I took this necklace apart, let me move this out of the way without spilling the beads and the paint. Spill the beads. Another thing you can do, and I found on this necklace, these beads. So when I showed you those earrings, these guys, and I told you they were a tri-cut bead. This is glass, but this is a wood tri-cut bead, and it has these 3 flat surfaces. And so I thought these are fun. I've already done the glass beads. I can embellish these and I can make something really interesting here. So we've got these really rustic beads, but what if we took those rustic beads and we put rhinestones on them? So I'm big on, let's make something interesting. Let's make something different. They almost look like eyes because in this case I used smaller rhinestones, so the rhinestone doesn't cover the flat side of the bead. So that's one way you can do this. And in that case, I used some prestige crystal flat backs. I am on the design team at artbeads.com, and Artbeads has and carries these mixes of different colors. And this one is called Fall Foliage. So this one has some beautiful fall colors. So I liked that for those beads. And then I thought, what if I take some larger flatbacks? And I'm not sure where these came from, but these are really kind of a beautiful blue color. And I thought just really quick, this is super easy. You probably can figure out how to do this, but just to show you how easy it really is, I'm going to take some, this is my go-to glue for this kind of a project. Using crystals, you always want to be pretty careful of using glue because you don't want to use any kind of a super glue or anything that will kind of frost the crystals that you'll be working with. And I'm just going to use a little bit of the E6000, kind of get it a little tacky on there. And then I'm going to take that and place it. Now this is still smaller than the flat part of the bead, but not as small as the others we did. Now you could also use rhinestone adhesive. Aleene's makes this as well. For a bead like this, I really want E6000. I don't know. It feels like it's for a material like this. It might hold a little bit differently. The rhinestone adhesive I like for glass, and I like for a larger piece. But for something small like this, I usually go with an E6000. So I'm just dropping that guy on, and then I give it a few seconds, and I'm got my glue off to the side over here. Just going to drop a little bit more on. So I'm just picking up a little bit of glue onto my toothpick. And you can use a rhinestone applicator if you have one. But because these are fairly big rhinestones, now this side of the bead, the rhinestone is filling up that spot. So really cool, really fun. And who doesn't love working with rhinestones? I mean, we all love rhinestones and sparkle in some way. So this is just a fun project. Do a little bit of rhinestone bling on your beads, and you've got something really fun to put onto a piece of jewelry. Now, I would just let this sit for a while. I'm the kind of person, I trust glue, but I like to let it sit for overnight or a few hours at least, and then start incorporating it into a project. But look at it from above. That's interesting. And then seeing how they look all the way around is just really fun. If you've got different colors, you can do them all in different colors. If you've got one that's like an AB finish, you can do them all the same. But I like to look for beads that have a flat surface like this. And that's just an easy way to apply rhinestones, or something, you know, a flat cabochon. Maybe you've got some glass cabochons or something like that. So we're not gonna put any of these on a piece of jewelry tonight, but I just thought, you know, for folks that maybe are thinking about, you know, starting to make jewelry, this is a very crafty kind of thing to do, and very fun to later then take this and you know, put it onto a bracelet, put it onto a necklace. This happens to be a fairly large hole bead. So you could maybe even put this on a ball chain or something like that, and it could be just a fun little like a pendant bead on a piece of chain.